every Pride Month, Gallup does a poll on support of same-sex marriage in the United States, and it hit an all-time high this year of 71%, which is great, but I think a lot of people overlook an alternative to all of this, and I will proudly say that I do not support same-sex marriage. So in the question they asked, do you think marriage between same-sex couples should or should not be recognized by the law as valid with the same rights as traditional marriages? No, I do not. But then again, I don't support traditional marriage by law either. I don't think the law has any should be involved in anybody's relationship with anybody else, right? Just like the law doesn't give you any favors for making friends with somebody or starting a business with somebody, or I guess it does get involved in businesses in some ways, but not to the extent that it does for marriage. The law doesn't say anything about various favors you could do for strangers, right? Whether or not you want to hold the door for somebody behind you, right? Why does it get involved in marriages, whether it be same-sex or otherwise, right? So no, I would say no to this question, but probably not in the way that a lot of people, in the way that the other 29% of Americans are saying no, right? And unfortunately, this is one thing that gets lost on everybody. Now, some people's response to my answer will be, well, what about the idea of children? Let me clarify something. There's a big difference between, now we're commingling three different concepts, right? There's a huge difference between having a life partner, having a romantic partner, and raising children with somebody, right? If you want a discussion about raising children, then have a law about raising children, right? Don't commingle that with the idea of two people having a romantic or a life relation with somebody else, right? That's the big problem that I have, right? The commingling of all those concepts together, right? So what would a life without the concept of marriage look like? Well, we would stop having favoritism based on marriage, right? So, for example, the big discussion in years past was whether or not you could share your health insurance with your same-sex partner, right? Either we could make it so that you could share your health insurance with anybody else, right? Whether or not you were same-sex or otherwise, married or otherwise, or just have health insurance be like anything else, right? So, for example, your employer doesn't care who you share your income with, right? Whether or not you're married to them, whether or not they're the same gender, right? Just have the market buy their health insurance like anything else, right? So, for example, although this is getting a little bit more complicated these days, your employer doesn't care what kind of food you buy, right? Although I gotta point out that a lot of I used to work for a tech giant where this was kind of blurry because they provided the food, right? I think that's a pretty toxic concept in its own right, because some people have religious differences, and it invites a lot of toxicity into the workplace. Anyways, I thought I would point out that there is an alternative to this concept. Now, 10 years ago, there was a time on my Facebook feed when everybody was drawing the equal signs for marriage equality. And I created my own equal sign with 3 lines. And the reason for that is I wanted people who were single to be accepted for people who were in a couple. So there are 3 people in that arrangement, right? And whether or not the couple was same-sex or not, right? So I made a Facebook photo with 3 lines at one point. Oh, good times. People asked me what it was about, and I explained it. And at the time, it was a very foreign concept. Most people told me that, well, marriage is a contract between two. How can you form a contract with yourself? I don't want to. I just think the government shouldn't get involved in it. That's all.